you don't need to have your video on if you don't want. We're going to go through a basic Q&A first. I'll moderate and just ask some basic questions of Adam, and then we've got Holly Hernandez with us from our career office. She is going to kind of moderate the chat. So if you do have any questions, you will absolutely be able to unmute yourself and ask your question yourself, or please feel free to just drop it into the chat. Holly will monitor it for us. So it looks like, B is here. And so we're going to get started with our introduction. So thank you all for coming for our Career Pathways Across the Disciplines event, public and nonprofit. I am going to ask our presenters to introduce themselves, to say who they are, what they do, and then maybe like a brief overview of the organization or the program itself, and then we will hop into questions. So I'm just going to go alphabetically. So Adam, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Adam Donaldson, and I work for ServerI, the Commission for National Community Service. It's Rhode Island's public agency, which is affiliated actually with our Department of Education to operate AmeriCorps, which is the program I'm going to talk about more today. Won't get too far into it, but AmeriCorps is a way to help communities. It's a way for Americans of all ages and backgrounds to dedicate time and skills to get things done. It's a volunteer program in which you commit to a term of service. We can get more specific about that, to help in lots of different areas: education, the environment, housing, food insecurity. But unlike regular volunteerism, it is a federal program. In addition to receiving on-the-job training and career experience, you do receive what we call a living allowance for expenses and a federal educational scholarship if you complete your term of service.
Excellent. Thank you, Adam. B, thank you for joining us today. Would you mind introducing yourself and giving maybe a quick 2 seconds about your program?
Sure. My name is B. Lindsay. I'm the director here at the Rhode Island State Government Internship Program. We have a team of 2 other individuals that work here with us, and we work with students who are either Rhode Island residents or can be a resident of any state if they are attending a Rhode Island institution of higher ed. Students need to be currently enrolled. We provide referrals for students in internships throughout state government, along with the executive branch, the judicial branch, municipalities, and some nonprofit organizations. During COVID, our internships were fully remote. We continued. We did not shut our doors. We did not miss a session throughout the pandemic. And our students that we worked with, close to, I believe, a little 300 or so, over 300 throughout that period of time, worked in fully remote team-based internships, policy proposals, HR, IT, and communication. And now, as we are in the middle of our fall session, we have started to bring students back, and they are interning in 3 different capacities. We have hybrid, in-person, and also still fully remote internships. As we look to the spring session, which will run January 31st through April 22nd, we will continue this format, allowing students to participate in either a hybrid, a remote, or an in-person internship.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we have Dream Paul with us. Would you mind introducing yourself and giving us kind of a 2-second intro to Breakthrough Providence?
Sure. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dream Paul. I serve as the Executive Director for Breakthrough Providence. Breakthrough Providence is an education nonprofit servicing the Providence community. We have been for the last 30 years with the goal to increase academic opportunities for traditionally marginalized youth. And that takes the form of serving students in both middle and high school to ensure that they're getting academic enrichment, as well as remain on the path for high school graduation and to be able to pursue post-secondary plans. We also work to inspire and develop the next generation of educators. And so we hire local high school and college students to lead all of our programming in hopes that they will grow their interest and pursue careers in education.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. So we will just jump into some questions. Let's start with kind of thinking about, what advice might you give to, to any of our students who are thinking about these paths, whether it's, hopping into a state internship or, getting into a service opportunity. What should these students be thinking about?
I'll just jump in since we kind of established the order first of alphabet, and say that we really think it's important for people to first start thinking about their values, actually, and kind of what they want, how they want to live their values through their work. I think that's something that AmeriCorps provides an opportunity for. So understanding whether you're someone who values learning or justice or peace or other really big ideas is something that we think you can connect to your career, and finding a way to do that can start with AmeriCorps or some of these other opportunities that are here.
I would also jump in and say that so if students, similar to what Adam was mentioning, if students are interested in an internship with state government, we ask that, the first thing they should know is what are their educational goals, right? What are their career plans? An internship can be a great way for them to not only, of course, meet educational goals and to learn new skills and to build a greater foundation for the workplace, but also to provide some clarity on whether they are in the field that really suits them. They may enter the internship and realize, wow, this is not what I thought it would be. And that can be a great learning experience where they can course correct, perhaps, maybe alter their academic program, even in studies. That's one of the reasons why we also tell students not to wait. If they can fit an internship in with their academic obligations, the earlier the better. Many students wait until the senior year to do an internship, and that's great. But I will tell you that we've also had students intern with us many sessions. They start off sometimes as a freshman in college, and they're able to try out different careers, and that's great. So those are some tips that I would share.
Yeah, and to piggy off on that, I agree with Adam, especially around the notion around values, and you might also hear knowing your why. I think that's pretty important. I find that through my time in the nonprofit sector, that those are the things that have kept me grounded. And so those might not be things that you have a full understanding of or can articulate right now, but it's a great place to start. And I think once you connect with organizations and read their mission, their values, if you feel like it's something that's aligned with what you're looking to do, to just jump in. I think if you value giving back to the community, servicing others, being a part of something that's larger than yourself, the nonprofit sector is a great space to be in. I like to think of it as the heart and feelings work. It's very people oriented, and so that's something that fills your cup to definitely pursue. Breakthrough, like I mentioned, our opportunities are around implementing our program model with our young students, and so if you have interest working with youth youth and, in the education space, maybe considering teaching, but not necessarily. We're definitely open to all majors. You don't have to be an education major. And similar to what Bia just mentioned, we often find after folks have done a summer with us, that's when they kind of get a better understanding of, yes, I definitely want to teach, or no, thank you. Or maybe I'll pursue different careers within education. And so, yeah, I think it's really just figuring out what you're looking to get out of the experience, maybe what skills you want to grow in. I think in general, nonprofit sectors value skills around, program management, planning, development, strategic thinking, leadership, facilitation skills, collaboration skills. And so if those are things that you feel like you already have or want to grow into, the nonprofit space might be a great place to do that. That's how I got started. I took a break from college. I graduated from UConn, had no idea what I wanted to do. So I pursued a service opportunity with AmeriCorps through City Year, and I've been in nonprofit ever since. So.
Excellent. So Dreen, we're actually going to stick with you on this next question. Can you describe what a general workday would look like, for you and your staff?
Sure. So I have a full-time staff of 2 and myself. So it's a total team of 3. And that's not really uncommon in the nonprofit space. There's definitely small teams that do a lot. And so as the ED or the executive director, I oversee the overall function and execution of the organization. I am the sole fundraiser for the organization. In the nonprofit space, there's a lot of fundraising in order to secure funds to do all of the things that we want to do. And so that's writing grants, submitting grant reports, and engaging our donors. I also lead a lot of the recruitment work as the placement director. And so for our summer staff positions, I lead a lot of those opportunities, coordinating recruitment fairs and sending out our information about our applications, and then organizing the staff team to engage in interviews when that time comes. I'm also the point person for the data collection at our site, and just making sure that my staff understand how to collect the data, enter it into the system, and then how to use it in its best way to inform our work. But that's not super common in that, I have a small team, so pretty much everyone is working multiple jobs. And so I think that it's less about what a day-to-day looks like and more about how you organize your time. And me, because I am point up for so many different projects, I'm more so organized. Like Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays are my fundraising days. Those are when I spend a majority of my day fundraising. Tuesday to Thursday are meetings. There's usually a lot of meetings that I'm trying to get through, whether it's about our budget, our work, collaborating with other community partners, checking in with my staff to make sure they're doing all right and know how to lead their work. And then I try not to have a lot of meetings on Fridays and Mondays. We're also celebrating our 30th anniversary, so I'm also point for planning our celebration. And then we're also leading a strategic planning process, which is an opportunity for organizations to kind of reflect on the work that they've been doing and start to assess goals and the future of where the organization should go. 30 years is a huge milestone for a nonprofit, and so just being able to stop and pause and think about where the impact can grow. And so there's a lot happening, but I think with the support of my team, we're able to kind of balance everything out. We also have 4 student interns, 1 from Brown and 3 from Providence College, that support all buckets of our work as well. They're all returning students, and so we're grateful to have them a part of the team.
Excellent, thank you. And so for Adam and B, what should an intern expect, when they are, or an AmeriCorps worker, what should they expect their day to look like? What are the kind of the more typical opportunities that they would be serving in?
Okay, so I can jump in on that. And because we have a real diversity of internship placements, as I noted, some are within the judicial branch, some within the executive branch. That means with our executive officers, some in the legislative branch. and some within our municipalities, some also in our nonprofit organizations and partners. It's not a one size fits all. The internships are very different depending on the student's academic goals and major. I will tell you that we have placement descriptions. So what happens is when a student applies to our particular program, they'll submit obviously their resume, they'll submit a cover letter where they indicate what their goals are that they want to meet and the type of internship that they feel that they would be most interested in. And then what we do is similar to what a few others have said today, we have a small team here as well. It's myself, we have a program officer and an administrative assistant. And then what happens is we will work with the student. Our program officer and our administrative assistant are very experienced and very knowledgeable about our placements. So what they'll do is they'll look to create matches between what the student is seeking to accomplish and what the placement description indicates that they're looking for an intern. We conduct remote interviews with our students. That began during COVID, but that will continue going forward. We've actually found, as many places have found, that some processes work fine remotely. And so we'll be conducting those remote interviews beginning on November 22nd. We'll meet with a few students at a time and go over our policies and procedures. And then we supply them with what we feel to be a placement match. One of the values that we bring to an internship is, obviously a student can go to a job board, right? Or I know Handshake and many others, and, look and see what internship feels like it would be a great fit for them, right? And they can apply to those individual internships, and that's great. And we encourage students to apply to a lot of different opportunities, right? When they apply to our internship, the value that we bring is the knowledge of the different placements. So for example, if a student is an accounting major, just use that as an example, they may think, well, I'm going to apply for an internship at an accounting firm. I don't know, that might seem to them as to be, the right road to take or so, whatever. If we're looking at their resume and we see that they're involved in maybe, an activity at school, maybe in the environment, or they're doing something like that, then we may make a suggestion, well, how about working in the, business department of DEM, or maybe, something like that, where they may not have thought of, they may not have thought it to be a fit, and we'll show them the description of what that entails. And, obviously at the end of the day, the student and their professor and advisor clearly decide what is best suited to them, and they can, agree or not agree. But I'd have to say that another thing is that we also, throughout the session, we provide adjunct programming. So in addition to obviously our orientation with all of our interns, we have a little bit less than 100 interns this fall session. So we'll have an orientation session. We also do a State House tour that's remote now. We do different learning sessions with the Office of Secretary of State and other offices at the State House. So we try to also provide other learning. And obviously, because we are the government internship program, it is generally focused on knowledge about government. So whether the student is with a municipality or with our nonprofit partner or here at the State House, we still want them to learn a little bit about their government and, the legislative process.
With AmeriCorps is similar in sort of the variety of experiences, right? So there's work that students need to do if they're interested in AmeriCorps to learn about the specific opportunities that are available in Rhode Island and across the country, both in terms of the mission, what is the purpose of that AmeriCorps program to help children learn to read, to help ninth graders succeed in algebra, to help families move into affordable housing, to help veterans obtain benefits and complete degree, higher education degree programs. There's just a lot of variety. Also in terms of whether it's part-time, just a few hours a day during the course of the week, or whether like a full-time job, you're 35, 42 plus hours serving in the community. I think that some of the things that AmeriCorps members experience that are typical is the emphasis on continuing to learn and training. So like college, there's continues to be classes, and that starts with an orientation when you first start in an AmeriCorps program that introduce you to the community that's being served, introduce you to the problems that are being addressed and the expectations of the program that you're going to implement, and then follow you in providing additional support and guidance during the term of service, including a real emphasis on reflection. So we highly emphasize, start to talk about the government internship program, learning about government. And our program too is focused on what does it mean to be an active citizen, to contribute to our, our world community. What are not the attitudes and skills that are needed to be a community leader. I think that whether an AmeriCorps member is in a program which is inside a classroom and they're reading to children, or whether, as I mentioned before, they're helping a family apply for rental assistance in a housing program, at some point in the AmeriCorps experience, you find yourself in the role of a teacher. So you have new and specialized information, and you're helping someone in the community benefit from the thing that you've learned. And you're in a role where you're teaching or coaching someone so that they can get assistance that they need. And to do that, you're navigating public systems. So you're learning a lot about how do we provide aid in our community? How does the federal government, the state government, and local government system interact? And that kind of information can be very useful as you think about careers in various fields. One of the big surprises that AmeriCorps members discover about their typical day, and Dream mentioned this casually without calling attention to it, but it's data collection. So these programs all involve a lot of thinking about results and holding ourselves accountable. And AmeriCorps members find themselves keeping logs of what they did, or how many times they met with an individual and what the outcome was for that individual, entering data into systems or writing down on things on notes. And I think that is often a surprise to folks when they start in their role as AmeriCorps members.
Data, we can never avoid it. And so thinking is, and all three of you have mentioned this a little bit in your previous responses, but thinking of, for the students, what advice might you have, as they are thinking about either the transition out of college into their first positions, or as they are thinking about, prepping for an internship, what sort of skills should they be thinking about developing? What should they be kind of preparing themselves for?
So I can jump in with that, if that's okay. So whatever career a student is looking to enter, and whichever internship they feel best meets their needs, the one thing that I always suggest to all students is to make sure to have a plan, know what your goals are, and to always just bring it, bring 100%. The best advice that I could give is that, no matter what your daily tasks might be or what project you're working on, it really doesn't matter. If you go into that particular task and you bring 100%, that is going to carry you very far. And I'll share just a brief story with you, if I could, just an anecdote. I was speaking to somebody last week who was interviewing candidates for an entry-level position, had many recent graduates who were interviewing with her in a remote platform. And one of the interviewees actually put me as a reference because they had been part of our internship program. And so she had contacted me to discuss the reference. And indicated that, in a general sense, obviously not talking about any specific candidates, but generally indicated to me that, what she looks for when she's interviewing, and I'm sure my colleagues on the panel can agree with this, is somebody who is, showing up to the meeting on time, who is professional in demeanor and communication, who is enthusiastic, who is willing to, listen, and who really exhibits a desire to be in the particular project or internship or job that they're applying to be in. And, surprisingly, she doesn't always find that with all of her applicants. So, that's kind of a general bunch of advice, but that's really important. And I think I'd want to just stress that.
Yeah, I can jump in. So just for some context, after college, I did my service here with City Year and then ended up staying with them for a second year and then loved it so much I stayed on as staff. So I was with them for a total of 5.5 years. And I think a lot of that came from being coachable. I think that having an open heart and like an open mind to the possibilities of an internship, the connections you can make, the community you can build, can really set you up to go further into the sector in ways that you wouldn't necessarily imagine. And so, you might end up doing things that you don't necessarily enjoy, do them anyway. You'll see that they'll later be able to be applied to different roles that you're in, different tasks that you have to lead on. And so really seeing things as a learning opportunity. I'd also highly encourage seeking out mentors. Someone was in your position before and learned some things and can share that wisdom with you. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. Don't be afraid to ask for help or perspective or advice. And so definitely seek out mentors. I'd also like to say, like, self-care is not a myth. It's actually not a luxury. It's essential, especially in this work. It's exhausting. And so don't be like me and when I was 22 or 25 and a workaholic. Learn to what your boundaries are, set them, communicate them to everyone else. You don't want to create unrealistic expectations around your performance. If you're always staying late or always signing up to take on projects, you'll be known as the person who stays late and takes on all of the projects. Understand your capacity, and we may be the generation, millennials, speaking for millennials and under, that advocates maybe too loudly for our needs and our what supports we need, or maybe the generation that's seen as leaving jobs too early. But I truly believe gone are the days that people are signing up for 30-year careers at one place. And so life is meant to be explored. Explore it. Don't feel guilty about if you're in a space where it's no longer serving you. That just means you are due for a new experience. And so take the leap of faith to do that. In the same breath, I'll also acknowledge imposter syndrome is real. And so find ways to cope and release that as early as possible. I'm a first generation college student. I'm a Black woman and so many other identities. And so imposter syndrome was super, super prevalent in my career. And I also, advanced in my career really early. And so I think that I had to deal with that in various ways. But I think that, it makes a world of a difference if you believe you have the talents, the skills, the capacity to do the things that you want to do and be where you want to be. And so I'm grateful for my rise in success. To be an ED before I turned 30 was mind-boggling and not necessarily what I expected, but as proud as I am, if I had received the messages that I'm sharing now, when I first started out, I think I would have avoided some of the work-related trauma that I've experienced over the years and just had a better time. And so, there's a lot to learn, push yourself to make space to learn and to learn from others, but also, setting some realistic expectations and boundaries for yourself. And, everyone suffers, or majority of people suffer from imposter syndrome. So you're not alone in that. But yeah, that's all I don't.
So I have a little book, and when you ask a question, I write down some of the thoughts, but they've all been taken for the most part. I was going to say, first, yes, show up, the equivalent of sitting in the front row when you start a new class at URI, or keeping your video on when you're in a Zoom meeting. Being present is really important if you're going to get the most out of things. And being open to feedback, that is probably a really hard skill to learn in a professional setting, but we all need to learn how to be open to feedback and to give feedback when it's needed within our work environment. And I also wrote down my notepad, find someone smarter than you. So I think the most fun I've had when I've had different jobs personally, going back from college graduation in 1999, that prior century, that the best jobs I've had is when the people above me I admired and respected for being smarter than I am, and I could really learn from them. You know, finding the mentor or the folks who are smarter than you will really be rewarding, and being open to that. So the last thing I'll say is, I kind of feel like these opportunities are steps to something else. They're opportunities to explore career options. They're also opportunities with AmeriCorps, perhaps if you're looking to establish yourself in a different geography, because I do think there's, people sometimes just want to try to live in a particular city or a particular rural community, try something else other than Rhode Island. I may have done that, and then 25 years whatever later you move back, but that's good. We'll see you when you get back here. And sometimes a job opportunity or an AmeriCorps experience, in my case, can be that thing that gets you to physically relocate and establish a new community through your work.
Excellent. Thank you. So I will take this time now to invite our participants to add some questions into the chat. Or if you want to ask it yourself, please feel free to unmute and ask your question of our panelists. And while you think about that, I will ask the panelists: is there anything that you wish you had done as you were kind of in your early career thought process? So any regrets or anything you wish you had done differently?
I could jump in on that one quickly, because it's not a regret, but it's actually an internship story that hopefully the participants will see that I teach what I practice, I guess you could say, or whatever. But when I was in college, I went to Rhode Island College for my undergrad, and I started as a communication major. I thought that I had a dream of working in radio, probably because friends of mine were working in radio, and I did an internship at a local radio station here, and I was so excited. And within the first week there, I was so defeated because I realized that I hated it. It was not where I wanted to be. I mean, it was fine, what they weren't mistreating me or anything like this. It just wasn't the job that I thought it would be, and I didn't feel excited about it. And I was really kind of at a loss. Luckily, I was a first semester sophomore, second year. And I was involved in some activities on campus, like governmental kind of activities, student government. So somebody just in passing, one of the staff people said, well, maybe government is your thing. Have you thought about that? And so I applied, and I did another internship at the State House in the Capitol TV, because I still wanted the communication part of it, right? And the minute I walked into the State House that day, like they say, love at first sight, it was that kind of a feeling. I just loved being in the State House, like getting aware of like the issues. I was interviewing legislators. I just thought what they were doing was just so compelling. And so I added a second major, political science, and I ended up earning my bachelor's degree in communication and political science. And then I went to Emerson College immediately after and earned a master's degree in political communication. And then I got elected to the General Assembly within the year after earning my master's degree. I ran for office, and I served 20 years, 10 as a state rep and 10 as a state senator. But I say all of that because if it had not been for that first internship, I would not have been set on the course that allowed me to be passionate and to work in my community and to, feel excited about work every day. Every day isn't, sunshine and roses, but if you're miserable when you have to get up to go to work or get up and to turn on the screen or whatever it might be, but it's just not the right fit probably, right? So it's great when you can find that out early on, as opposed to later on. And, as, some of the colleagues here were saying, you're not going to stay at your workplace probably forever. My parents did, they stayed forever. And, my daughter who's in college will be switching jobs probably a lot here and there. But even still, that being said, if you can land at least in the area or something that you feel really inspires you, that's really great. So I just want to share that.
Yeah, I love that. For me, yeah, I think no regrets, definitely learning. I wish I'd learned earlier that my purpose doesn't necessarily mean it's tied to my job. I think that, I am grateful for taking the leaps that I have, similar to what Adam was talking about. I applied to the Northeast region and was placed in Rhode Island. So I moved here for City Year and have been here ever since because I truly fell in love with the city. And so that was my kind of, go explore the world and see more than what I've seen already. And then fell in love with the nonprofit sector and the work that I've been doing with young people. But I think that my downfall early on was thinking that, here I found a community, I figured out how to articulate my values and, my why. And so now I have to give all of me to it. And that was through my work and, late hours, not taking care of myself, all of that good stuff, because it was for me, like, how does this impact our students? I have to give, 1,000% to our students. And, really remembering that, like, we only have 100 to give. And so that's 100 that's supposed to be divvied up between your personal life, your family, your friends, work, and whatever else makes up your personal pie. But it's not 100 to work, 100 to friends, 100 to this, 100 to that. And so, yeah, I think if I had known earlier that my purpose wasn't necessarily connected to my work, and for some people it is. And so if you find that early, that's great. But for me, I think my general purpose is more aligned with my why and my values, and I can find that anywhere. It allows me to have better balance in my life, especially in my work life. And so, yeah, I wish I learned that earlier.
Been thinking a lot about that question, and in terms of career development, I really don't. I don't have regrets. I went to college from Rhode Island. I went to college in Ohio, and as an English major, was curious about what it would be like to teach, and joined AmeriCorps as an opportunity to be a teacher without being a teacher. Was doing literacy tutoring at the elementary school level for the most part. And I actually served in the Peace Corps thereafter and entered a career in and around AmeriCorps and nonprofit communities and philanthropy, and took me to some different states and different countries until I came back to Rhode Island. I think that one of the things that I would say, a long-winded answer. When I was in college, everyone encouraged me to write, and I took creative writing classes, and I had this fantasy when I was a kid that I would be a writer. I won a Rhode Island 3rd grade state writing contest, a proud moment of my past when I was 3rd grade. And the thing is, I never woke up in the morning and started writing. I never was that person who got up at 5 or stayed up till midnight writing stories or poems or novels. But I do think about public service and AmeriCorps in that way. So I don't really regret not having been a writer. I don't know if I would have been successful at it, but in order to do something, you can't just think about it, you actually have to do it. And that's especially true in writing. If you're not writing something, then you can't possibly call yourself a writer. And I think it's the same thing. If there's a job that you're interested in or a career that you want to pursue, even if it changes, you have to really just start doing it.
Excellent. So do any of the students, do you have any questions you'd like to ask right now? You can feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or you can type it into the chat.
I had just a question. My name is Madison Tyner. I'm a freshman here at URI. At the moment, I'm a secondary education and biology major. I was just wondering, like, what kind of opportunities would you guys suggest to go into? Because I have an interest in like the nonprofit sector. Since the end of my sophomore year of high school, I've been working at YMCA as a swim instructor and lifeguard. I found that I fell in love with working in the nonprofit sector. Not quite sure what to do as someone that wants to go into education field, and how that can translate better into the nonprofit sector.
Well, I'll jump in and do a shameless plug. We are currently recruiting for our summer opportunities. So I mentioned our part of our mission is inspiring and developing the next generation of educators. So every summer we host a 6-week summer program for our middle school students. And we hire high school and college students to serve as the teaching fellows and the cluster members for the summer. And so yeah, we'd love to have you apply. I can make sure I'll add the link to the application in a moment. But yeah, it's an opportunity to work alongside peers in college as well, get experience in the classroom in front of a classroom of students, work on some lesson planning, instructional strategies, classroom management skills. And then, our summer program is pretty much like a marriage between summer camp and summer school. And so we're academic focused, but we also like to have a fun time with our students, especially given the last 2 years in the pandemic. Last year was this past summer, we were able to return in person to have a COVID safe summer program with them. And we didn't realize how much we needed it and how much they needed it, just to be in front of each other and have a good time. And so yeah, it's a pretty fun summer. It's a program that we're most known for in our last 30 years of service. And so, yeah, I think that'd be a great opportunity. You also get mentored by seasoned educators. So they observe and coach you, and they're able to give you some feedback on your work in the classroom and areas that you can improve. We also have professional development opportunities. And then we invite other non-traditional like education pathways to come and present to our staff throughout the summer. Like I mentioned, I'm a City Year alum, so we usually have City Year, Urban Teachers, Uncommon Schools, and Up Education Network out of Boston. And so that's just another opportunity to learn more about maybe some non-traditional routes into the education space. But yeah, so I'll link our application in a moment, but that's how you can get involved with me.
Thank you very much.
Just say that, yeah, Breakthrough Providence is a perfect fit for how you described yourself. And there's also an AmeriCorps program. Again, I'm just thinking of part-time, something you could do right now. There's an AmeriCorps program with the Providence After School Alliance, which is exactly what it sounds like, the After School Alliance. So AmeriCorps members serve only in the after school hours. So it's a part-time program in several Providence middle schools, and they work with the students on just a variety of enrichment activities, bringing their own skills to the program and helping to run the program. Obviously, it's hard to juggle while as a student, but I would be very remiss if I didn't mention here that I work at within the Rhode Island Department of Education. There's over a dozen AmeriCorps alumni in our state education agency, including the Commissioner Angelica Infante Green, who served with Teach for America in Buffalo, New York. Teach for America is a program where you would have an immediate teaching position in Rhode Island or elsewhere if you chose, which you shouldn't do in this case. You should stay in Rhode Island and be a teacher, especially in the STEM realm, secondary level. You can have a job instantaneously, and whether you serve with Teach for America or not, we'd love to have you be part of Teach for America. And through that program, you would earn a master's degree in teaching, and the AmeriCorps Education Award would help defray the costs of that. So that's on the long range plan.
Thank you very much.
I'm just going to jump in here and say that all of our presenters today as well have handshake profiles. So even if the specific position that is being offered right now is not currently up, or if it's in the middle of if it's expired and we need to renew it or something like that, as students, what you can do is just go online, go into Handshake and follow those employers. So follow AmeriCorps, follow the state of Rhode Island, follow Breakthrough Providence. And then that way, whenever new positions come up in those areas, you'll get a little ping that tells you, you better check that out.
Nice. So any other questions?
I have a question. Hi, my name is Lauren Smith. I am a senior at Rhode, as a science teacher.
Lauren, we're having a hard time hearing you. It might be easier if you typed in your question.
Can you hear me better now? Because my mic fell out of my ear.
Yep, yeah.
Okay. So my name is Lauren Smith. I am a political science major at URI. I'm in my senior year. And I'm starting to do my networking and get myself out there, put myself more on the board, if you want to call it. And my goal is to go to law school eventually. But what bases that goal is I have a desire to be a voice for people who can't have a voice for themselves, or whatever capacity they can't be that voice. And so basically fight for others. And I find that I can have multiple aspects in both a political aspect and as well as legal. And I'm just trying to figure out what the best way to figure if I want to go fully political or if I want to go fully legal, because since law school is very expensive, if my passion is more political, I don't want to be paying an excessive amount for law school if that's not going to be the path I go through.
So I can jump in on that one if you'd like. We do actually have students in similar situation who have been part of our program and or who have applied to our program, they're contemplating law school, they're not sure, that kind of thing. If your interest is in public service in one capacity or another, we would probably talk to you about different openings that we have in either a partner organization such as, let's just say, the Commission for Human Rights, for example, is one place that students who want to, work as an advocate, so to speak, in the community. Also drafting and working on policy within one of our state offices, or even in our remote team-based internship would be an option too, because students do have an opportunity to really look at legislation and law and determine if this is really something they want to spend a lot of time doing, in law school, and they can draft legislation also in this particular internship. And also, another option would be perhaps working within a municipality or in a legislative internship with a legislator. Those internships are very limited, especially as we're coming out of COVID. Our legislature is planning to come back in person in January. They were remote And, we historically have interns who work with various legislators. We're looking at having a very limited number of internships available this coming January due to, the situation with COVID, and some legislators are still not comfortable or able to work, with interns, with different protocols in place and things like this, right? So that would be an option. Also, we're looking at the spring, but similar to what a couple of colleagues said earlier, we also take applications for the summer. It's a rolling basis. So, if it's not something you have to do now to earn credits, you can think about doing it over the summer. Another thing also, one last thing, is our courts. We do place students within our judiciary. Again, our judiciary was closed due to COVID, right? And proceedings were all remote. They were not taking any interns for a very long time. They have just started to take interns again this fall. Again, by summer, we would anticipate that to be perhaps back to like a normal number, let's say. It's probably still be limited in the spring, but they do take mostly law school students, but do take some undergrads as well. So those are just different options.
Yeah, and very different from what you're thinking, but I majored in English and was pre-law my entire college career, and then decided not to go into law school. Similar to Dia, I interned at a courthouse for the summer before my senior year. It was an amazing experience. It just did not push me further into that. But I would more so advice on networking. Definitely check out, events that are happening in the city that you can attend. Those are great ways to meet people. I think LinkedIn is definitely leading the charge right now in ways that I didn't imagine, but do some LinkedIn stalking, see where folks are that you can set up some informational interviews. I don't think people take advantage of informational interviews as much as they could, but people like talking about themselves. So you find some lawyers or folks in sectors that you're interested in, asking them for, 30 minutes of their time, maybe a coffee date where you can ask some questions. I think similarly, as you're looking at law schools to attend, I often go on their alumni page. They sometimes share where their alumni ended up. And see if someone in the department can connect you to an alum that is also willing to share their journey and their story about how they ended up where they ended up. But I think continue to push yourself to network and reach out to people and take advantage of interning in spaces that could also just bring some clarity to you around which side you want to go to.
So much.
I'll just add, just staying in my lane of AmeriCorps, because I think you have some decisions to make about feasibility of things and cost and advanced degree, trying to move on to advanced degrees. The most relevant experience, I think, if you did choose AmeriCorps, would be a program called AmeriCorps Vista. It's a anti-poverty program. And AmeriCorps Vistas serve for a full year, receive a very modest living allowance of around $750 every 2 weeks. So you can see how that wouldn't add up to more than, say, $16,000 or so a year. They also receive a $6,350 scholarship that can be used to pay federal loans or to pay tuition at accredited colleges and universities. But Vista, being an anti-poverty program, AmeriCorps Vistas are placed at places like Dorcas International, which works on immigration and refugee rights, or the Coalition for the Homeless, which works on homeless rights, or positions that get involved in the foster care system, or other really vulnerable populations is the term of art that we still use, for better or worse. But you mentioned wanting to be a voice for others, and that's the one that would connect most directly with AmeriCorps.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. So one final call for questions before we open up the breakout rooms. Does anyone want to ask something to the full panel? All right, so I'm going to open up our breakout rooms. Before I do, we do have just as a reminder, we've got 3 more days of this. I'm super excited. We've got a whole new set of employers coming over the next few days. So, if you have, time, please, feel free to join. But I will open up the breakout rooms. They are named by each of the employers. Feel free to go into whichever room you want to chat with them further. And then you should be able to come back into the main room and then go back into a different breakout room if you have questions for very specific people. So thank you all for being here over the course of this last hour. This has been awesome. And I hope you have some really awesome conversations in your breakout rooms.